You're pretty good. My wife's name is Megan. She's not here tonight. We've been married for 8 years. She's amazing, awesome, amazing. She's all those things. In the 8 years we've been married, we used to say that we had a fight a year, and we saved up for it. Didn't want to waste any energy on the little ones when we could focus on the good one. It's been a couple of years since our last fight, our last big fight. I got two theories as to why. One, we've gotten to a new level in our relationship and we're amazing. Or two, the last time she started a fight with me, the last time we had a fight, I wrote a song about it. And I've told the world about her. So she has a lot more tolerance now. My wife is OCD. She's a clean freak. She's not, I know, there's a club. She's not diagnosed like you. She's not diagnosed, but it's just because we're busy and we haven't taken the time to go see the specialist. As soon as we can see a trained physician, we're going to know for sure what we've been suspecting all this time. There's always vacuum marks on my carpet at home. The dust boards have to get done once a day, and it's crazy, man. You set something down, you walk out of the room, you come back, it's gone. Stop laughing, you're encouraging me. So, okay, we had some friends over at our house. We were all hanging out. I was eating some pretzels. Now, I had the pretzels sitting directly on the table. They weren't upon a napkin or a plate, as a good Christian husband would do. They were on the table, and this bothered my wife. That's not good. The table is not to be touched ever. So we're all hanging out, a bunch of us there, and I'm eating the pretzels. Now, my wife and I, our stories really diverged here in a big way. But she's not here. So you get the truth. My wife says that I was throwing pretzels at a friend of mine. That does not sound like me. I remember I was eating the pretzels, and the pretzel was traveling from the table to my mouth, and I fumbled. And the pretzel fell, and it hit the hardwood floors in the dining room, and when it did, those salt demons scattered to every corner of our house, destroyed our house. We barely escaped with our lives. This is the response that, you would have thought the house was tumbling around us. My wife disciplined me with her eyes in a way that only husbands can understand. Well, I had survived many eye disciplines before, and it was fine. But my friends that were there that night, they saw it. And so it was a problem. Because I had to show my boys that this is my house. So I looked my wife in the eyes and I said, and I raked all the pretzels on the floor. Now, I thought it was hilarious. I know my friends thought it was hilarious, but no one laughed. They were waiting to see what my wife would do. And she stormed off to the bedroom. The story goes on. I went back. The door was jammed for a bit before I realized that woman had locked me out of what had always been our room. The Bible says that love does not keep a record of wrongs. Wouldn't that be great? The pretzel gave us both an opportunity to pull out our list of all the things that were wrong with the other person. And so we begin to list all the things that were broken about the other person. And what started off as just a little, a little struggle for pride turned into a big fight. Most of my friends had left by this moment. A few hung out to see what would happen. But my wife and I, we ended up in our home that night tearing one another apart over little things that had piled up. And I have a million analogies for this, as I'm an analytical person and I think everything through. And one of the best analogies I have is a snowflake. A snowflake will fall and it's harmless, and it will fall and it'll dissolve. It'll go away. A snowflake is harmless. But a bunch of snowflakes start to fall, and before you know it, you have this whole hillside covered in snow, and the slightest little interruption will cause an avalanche and destroy everything in its path. Well, see, all these little things that had fallen in our relationship, these little snowflakes, harmless by themselves, had piled up in this record that we were keeping. And all it took was just one thing that night in our house to cause this destruction. And as we tore one another apart with our words, and as our anger grew, as we spoke in tones completely different than what I'm speaking to you now, it got to the point to where I said to my wife, well, it's obviously impossible for us to get along, so why don't you go your way and I'll go my way, and we don't have to do this anymore. And I meant it in the moment because I was angry and stupid and just so passionate about being right. And my wife, thank God, she didn't respond in the same way. I mean, if she would have came back and said, fine, leave, I don't know where my relationship would be today. Maybe I would have left. Maybe, who knows what the next step would have been. I don't know. Because I meant it. I was angry. But she didn't. She said, no, we're going to fight this out. We're going to figure it out. And we did. We fought on, we fought on, and we fought on. And eventually, the fight ended. And I say that there was a bliss on the other side of that fight. There was a love that I did not know before the pretzel. And I was so grateful that I stayed in the fight, that I stayed in the battle long enough to see the victory on the other side of it. And I walked away from that just feeling so, I guess, small and just thinking, God, please help us. Because someday, the big pretzel's going to fall. We were just shy of 6 years of marriage, and I wasn't naive to think that was going to be the biggest thing we were going to face. That night it got bad, but I know there are going to be worse times. But I believe with all my heart that on the other side of the worst battle that I could ever imagine is the greatest victory that I can ever imagine. I just got to get through the battle. I got to hang in. I started to write this song for my wife as I was learning these lessons. I sang it to her on our 6-year anniversary in the back porch at her parents' house. And later I was making a record, and I asked my wife for permission to record it, and she said yes. And it was heard by some writers in Georgia who were writing a movie, and they asked if they could use a song in the movie Fireproof. And my wife and I went down, and we got to meet Kirk, and we got to be on set, called action for a couple of scenes. No one moved when my wife said action. They didn't know if it was for real or not. And my wife and I got to talk about it for a bit and say, is this really what we want to do? Do we want to share with people what happened in our house that night? And ultimately we said yes, because we both believe in the truth that if we confess our sin one to another, we can be healed. And it's by admitting that we struggle that we have found healing, that there's wisdom in a multitude of counsel, and we have sought counsel, and we have found wisdom. And also, as we are healed, as we confess, we see other people being healed as we confess. I know that it would have turned out differently if my wife hadn't been if my wife hadn't been able to say, this will end differently, it's not going to end like this. She called on God, and God showed up. My wife and I have a 6-month-old little baby boy that I asked him to show you because he's amazing. 6 months. His name's Montgomery. He weighs 120 pounds. I said that a few weeks ago, and this lady on the second row said, oh my. I'm so thankful for him. I'm so thankful for the fact that God sees further than we see. And I travel all over the place and I share my story, and I've heard some hard stories from people, and I know that in a room this full, there are some hard stories happening. There are some things taking place in here that I don't want to play down and just go, oh, just work it out. I know it's not that easy. I know sometimes it is a fight. But I believe with all my heart, my friend, it is worth the fight. Love is not a place to come and go as we please. It's a house we enter in and then commit to never leave. So lock the door behind you and throw away the key. We'll work this out together. Let it bring us to our knees. 'Cause love is a shelter in a raging storm. And love is peace in the middle of a war. And if we try to leave, may God send angels to guard the door. No love, it's not a fight, oh, but it's something worth fighting for. To some, love is a word they can fall into, but when they're falling out, or keeping that word, it gets hard to do. But love is a shelter in a raging storm, and love is peace in the middle of a war. And if we try to leave, may God send angels to guard the door. No love, it's not a fight, oh, but it's something worth fighting for. And love will come to save us if we'll only call, and he will ask nothing from us but demand we give our all. You see now, 'cause love is the shelter in your raging storm. And love, he will bring peace to the middle of our wars. I believe he will. And if we try to leave, God, please send angels to guard the doors. 'Cause love, it's not a fight, no, but but it's something worth fighting for. Yes, I would fight for you. Would you fight for me? She said yes, on the back porch at her mama's house. She said it's worth fighting for.